Mic's on.
I'd like to call this special meeting of the Shelton Metropolitan Parks District to order. I don't think there's anybody here for comment. Oh, I don't have my mic on yet. There we go. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Do we need to excuse the mayor from the proceedings this evening?
Don't you do? Is it like a legal procedure?
I think, we don't have on here call roll, but Donna, if you could call roll, that way we can get it in the minutes that the mayor is excused.
President Dorsey,
Here.
Board Member Inesco,
Here.
Board Member Kranz,
Present?
Board Member Mayor, Board Member Rogers, absent. Board Member Peterson. Here. Board Member McDowell.
Present.
Board Member Schmidt.
Here.
I think that takes care of it.
Thank you.
All right, should we move on? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. At this time, we'd like to move from the regular meeting and open a public hearing about the SMPD 2020 ad valorem tax levy. And Finance Director Aaron B. Miller has information for us.
Thank you, President. Good evening, board members. Aaron B. Miller with the Finance Department. I believe that you all have received a substituted Resolution 28-1019 for the ad valorem taxes. Great. So I'd like to proceed using that document for this meeting. Before you is the ad valorem tax resolution for the Shelton Municipal Park District for 2019 assessed valuation and for collections in 2020. We've had two meetings on this. We had a meeting on September 17th as well as on October 15th to talk about the revenues and expenses of the budget, and we also talked about the ad valorem taxes, in particular on the October 15th meeting, excuse me. This resolution would adopt a property tax collection of $510,647.23. That is $17,269 and change above the 2019 level, and it constitutes just over a 3.5% increase. We are not levying to the maximum, so this resolution also lets the assessor, the Mason County assessor, know that any unused levy we want to reserve for future use should the board decide to do that at a later time. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can you repeat that last part that you said?
Sure, because we are not levying the maximum amount that we could, the last paragraph of section 1, which is on the top of page 2, reserves any unused levy, meaning any levy that is above and beyond what we are levying for 2020, as reserved, so that in the future we can levy that if the board chooses to in coming years.
And is there a reason why we aren't levying that, the whole amount?
That's a discussion for the board, if they would like to have this change to the full amount.
What's the pros and cons of that?
The pros of it are that you would collect a higher dollar value. That money then would be able to be set aside for use on any good metropolitan or municipal park district purpose in the future. The cons, another pro is that if you don't collect it now, you can collect it into the future, but you can't collect the 2020 amount again. So if you could collect $100 and you collect 50, you could go up to that $100 or $101 in the future, but that $50 that you leave on the table today is essentially lost, opportunity lost. The cons really are the amount of increase of property tax assessed as for the Shelton Municipal Park District. It would go into the maximum is about $577,000, so it would increase, excuse me, by about another nearly $70,000, $67,000 on top of this, and it would be an increase of percent of somewhere around 17%. So those are really the main pros and cons for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I don't think anybody's here for public testimony on this matter, so I'd like to ask for the first and final reading of resolution number SMPD 28-1019.
Resolution number SMPD 28-1019, a resolution of the Shelton Metropolitan Park District of Shelton, Washington, setting the amount of the annual ad valorem taxes for calendar year 2020.
Any questions from the board or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I move to adopt Shelton Municipal Park District Resolution Number 28-1019, levying the district's 2020 ad valorem taxes as submitted.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. At this time, we're going to close this public hearing and open another public hearing for the 2020 budget. And again, Mr. B. Miller.
Thank you, President. Before you is resolution number 28-1019, which, Donna, that doesn't seem right. Isn't
It
that the
should be
same
number
one?
29.
It says, mine says 29.
Oh, it does say 29. I have glasses. They
I missed
just
it the
need
first
better
time too,
glasses.
don't feel bad.
29-1019, beg your pardon. This resolution would adopt the Shelton Metropolitan Park District budget for 2020. We've had, again, a couple of public hearings on this, one in September and another one in October, where we discussed the budget. This resolution would adopt this Park District 2020 budget appropriation at $695,750. Those are expenses that would go toward its purpose of reimbursement for parks and recreation activities, above and beyond what is earned revenue for those activities. We just adopted the ad valorem tax of $510,000. So this budget does use some fund balance of the Park District. As of January 1st of this year, there was about $377,000 in fund balance, and this would use about 185 of it. That number will change slightly when we get to the end of the year because we will have accumulated more revenue than expenses out in 2019. But this would use some of that fund balance. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the comments? All right.
I do. I have another question. Is there, I'm sure I've heard this before, but is there a certain amount of money that we have to keep in that fund? In the park fund? We can use it, right?
I'll defer to
We're following the former, same policy as the city adopted for strategic reserve and cash, and any cash balance. So it's 13%, I believe, total is there. So that's essentially cash balance to maintain, because the city bills quarterly to the park district. We have to have enough funds within the bank to pay that bill.
And the strategic account or strategic funds that's kind of for emergencies?
Or capital purchases
Okay.
or projects, yes.
All right.
All right. Has anyone signed up for public testimony?
No, there's no one.
You're on fire.
At this time, we'll ask for the first and final reading of resolution number SMPD 29-1019.
Resolution number SMPD 29-1019, a resolution of the Shelton Metropolitan Park District adopting the budget for the year ending December 31st, 2020.
All right, no comments, so we'll move to a motion. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt Shelton Municipal Park District Resolution number 29-1019, adopting the district's 2020 budget as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. So now we'll close this public hearing and resume the regular meeting. We no longer, there was going to be a special meeting on December 3rd. We no longer need the special meeting. So the next SMPD meeting is on December 17th at 5:50. Adjourned.
You know why I'm full of.
Because I gave you 2 peanut M&Ms. You're back on full. Oh, yeah.
Please rise for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Donna, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Dorsey.
Here.
Councilmember Inesco.
Here.
Councilmember Krantz.
Present.
Mayor Rogers. Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember McDowell.
Present.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
And are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Yes, Ms. Deputy Mayor, members of council, I would like to pull item number 6 from the action agenda. It's resolution number 1153-1019, and not set a date for its reconsideration at this time.
Is there consensus to strike that item from tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, we will move on to council reports. And I'll start tonight with Councilmember Dorsey.
All right. Well, aside from my regular staff briefings, I did miss one because I did go on vacation for a few days. I did attend the public hearing on the Western Gateway project, which was a good presentation by Craig, and that's about it.
Councilmember Onisco?
I also attended that, and on the 11th, I attended a Veterans Day ceremony at the Memorial Hall with Councilmember McDowell. We had a joint City Council County Commission meeting on the 12th. I attended a business after hours on the 13th, outside of our briefings and city meetings. And I'm meeting today with our city manager, and that is it.
Councilmember Krantz?
Well, have staff briefings, talking to citizens about the city. Looking forward to my semi-retirement coming up here on December 31st. And had some individual conversations with individual council members about things. And I also attended that joint meeting with the county talking about possible future lobbying ideas with a lobbyist. And I have a criminal justice meeting, I believe, on Thursday morning, unless it's been canceled. Thank you.
And as for myself, I also attended the Western Gateway Projects and the County City joint meeting. The following day, on November 13th, I attended the opiate stakeholders meeting on behalf of the city, which actually has a conglomerate of 120 agencies from throughout the county represented. There were nearly 65 in attendance at that event. There was some good reporting out, which I'll be sending along to our city manager to share out with council members as well. Then on the 15th, I had Peninsula Regional Transportation Project Organization meeting, which was held in Jamestown, S'Klallam, so I attended by conference call, and we reviewed some of the legislative priorities and some of the impacts we may see with the changes with taxing and with the short legislative session, what that may look like. So other than that, 2 individual constituent meetings, and looking forward to this meeting. Kathy?
Attended the Western Gateway project. It was presented very well. I also went to the Veterans Breakfast with Councilmember Onisco. And that was, if you ever get a chance to do that, that's pretty incredible to see some very old veterans and some very young veterans and everything in between. So it was a good morning. Attended the city and county meeting. Visited the area on aging, their new facility on Mountain View. So if you get a chance to go up and visit, pop your head in and say hi, that, you're from the city. They'd appreciate that. Briefing with Jeff, several constituent meetings, and leaving town for a few days, so I won't be around.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Good evening. The 2 meetings I attended on behalf of the city, the 2 board meetings I had last week, the Mason County MASCOM MASCOM Governance and Legislative Board last Tuesday, and the Economic Development Council Board meeting last Thursday. And that is it for me.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the general public comment period. Before we begin, for those of you who would like to make public comment, when you reach the podium, please state your name and if you are a resident of the city. Donna, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes. I have Marilyn Ward.
Marilyn?
Good evening, council members and deputy mayor. I'm Marilyn Ward. I live on North Cliff. I'm a resident of Shelton. This is about the 4th or 5th time I've come before the commission or the council and brought up the issue of signs on 101. I'm a new resident of Shelton, 7 years, come from San Diego, and I know that when I was looking for a home up in Washington, I would drive on the freeways, and at the exits, you have signs telling you what restaurants, what gas stations, what motels are in that area. The one thing I don't understand is that our city, for the exit on Railroad, has nothing. On 3, it says DQ. We have a DQ, and we have a Safeway, I believe. Or the Safeway is on Railroad, I'm not sure. And then up on Wallace Meeland, we have all the fast foods. But other than that, we have nothing letting tourists or people know who are driving on 101 what we have in Shelton. And we have a lot of nice little restaurants. We have, the Strip, Moe's, Urocco Coffee, all kinds of things that could bring people into the town. But when they're driving down the road and they see nothing, they're going to keep going to either Olympia or Hood Sport, because those Hood Sports are right there. You can see what there is, and Olympia has signs. So I know I've brought this up. You told me that you were working on the signs. That was over a year ago. Another summer's come and gone, and we have no signs. I talked to a lot of people about this issue, and the people who live here pretty much think the same thing. They're really surprised why we don't have those and why every other place you go has them. I'm sure that, a lot of these other places don't have a lot of money to spend, and somehow they get their name on that sign that will bring people in. So I really think it's something that, if we want people to come to Shelton, we have to let them know what's here, especially on the main drag. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Anyone else?
Yes, I have Dean Jewett. But Dean, it doesn't say what you're commenting on. Is it a general public comment or an agenda?
Because it's a secret. So my time doesn't start yet. No.
No, it doesn't start yet.
Just want to talk about some of the stuff that we've all heard before. Dean Jewett, live up on Mountain View. You got me started yet?
Got you started.
All right. Thank you for letting me run for city council, even though I lost. Kathy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I just lived in this small community my whole life. I enjoy it. It's a one-horse little town that I was going to get out of and never did, and I'm glad I didn't. So I really want to say thanks for having a small community. I want to give a shout out to our law enforcement. I don't know if you guys followed some of that about finding a guitar that we, which is, those are cool stories. Those are feel-good stories about a good small town. I want to thank the city for going out and cleaning up the garbage that was left on the library stairs. If you've seen any pictures of that, I was actually on my way to go pick that up when I found that somebody else picked it up. I did actually have the opportunity to pick up garbage at the gazebo, but I went back there the next day, and there was just as much there, if not more. So when you look around the city and you see the different things that are happening, and you travel around to the different municipalities, and I'm fairly active on social media. So I tried to do my research and dig in and find out what works, what doesn't. We do not need to reinvent a wheel, but I would ask that the council start talking to law enforcement about the laws that we have on the books and the ordinances, and we need to start enforcing those. Not enforcing those has gotten us where we're at, and it's going to get us where Olympia is. You take the exit going over to Home Depot, Platte, over to Kaiser, and it's nothing but tent city and garbage and dereliction and everything else. I don't want to see that in Shelton. I've got a food truck. We go down into Grays Harbor. You see it down there. I do not want Shelton to be there. I don't want them to get more of a foothold than what they already have. So what do we have to do? Do we have our law enforcement get out there and start harassing and start, taking the law and holding these people accountable? If we do, everybody says, well, there's no room in the jail. I did my jail duty. I had a conversation, went through there, made sure I did my due diligence, had a conversation with Chief Moody. Okay? There's other ways without just incarcerating those individuals that we could use. If they get a ticket and they can't pay that ticket, well, we have community service. There's a pretty good gal that runs around and picks up the streets and stuff like that too. I've had some good conversations with her. Let's get those people that can't pay those fines. They don't get a ticket just because they can't pay a fine. To me, that's ludicrous. They get a ticket, they get the fine, they work it off. Now we're not having to pay our people to go out there and clean that for the city. It's just an option, just an idea. Those are my thoughts. As Paul Harvey says, good day.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
And Donna, anyone else?
That's it for now.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Is there any, and all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. At this time then, has anyone signed up for a comment on the business agenda items?
No.
No. Okay. In that case, we will recess from the regular meeting to open a public hearing about non-represented salary schedule. And Human Resource Manager Michelle Sutherland has details for us about the non-represented salary schedule.
Deputy Mayor, Council, the city supports the recruitment of well-qualified, productive employees and desires to recruit and retain individuals who demonstrate the required skills, initiative, and high ethical standards for the jobs that we do for the city. The non-represented salary schedule will allow the city to effectively compete for qualified personnel and ensure that salaries are equitable and commensurate with the duties performed in each position. It also ensures a pay schedule that is consistent across all departments. Compensation and salary schedule research consisted of a review and analysis of the same or similar positions in comparable sized cities with similar demographics. The Association of Washington Cities 2019 salary survey, as well as the Milliman survey, were utilized in determining base, midpoint, and max point for each position that we do have. Yelm, Kelso, Cedro, Willie, Hoquiam, and Chehalis were utilized as comparable cities for all positions that were the same or similar. For cities that didn't have positions that were similar to ours, I did have to go out and use Enumclaw, Port Townsend, and Paulsbo occasionally. Not very often, but when we didn't have enough comparables within Yelm, Kelso, Cedro, Willie. So we recommend that the council concur to move this item to the action agenda for the December 3rd, 2019 meeting And did the council have any questions regarding the schedule or the salary ordinance at all?
Can you explain, so people know what a non-represented salary schedule is? I mean, non-represented.
Non-represented is employees that are not part of a collective bargaining agreement or a union. So we're non-unionized employees not represented.
And those would be what? I mean,
Similar, like non-represented, city manager, human resource manager.
I didn't see the list, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yep, so positions of that type.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And Donna, has anyone signed up for public testimony on this item?
No, there's not.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the council?
Well, I would just say from my past experience with the city that I think we always kind of have a little bit of a problem because we're kind of always a little less than a lot of other cities around us, and we kind of always want to kind of pull our wages up and do the best we can. We're in a little more prosperous times than we were in the past. I think this is a great idea. The one thing I would caution the city to do is to make sure that our comps are with cities of like income base, occupations, tourist trade money, and, you know, because Shelton's a unique place, and it's a place we love, but it's not real comparable to Tumwater or Bellevue or, you know, Paulsbo maybe. You know, we're a little bit different because we have different makeup and whatnot. So I'm sure that you guys have taken this into consideration in doing this, but I always kind of said, make sure that the cities you're comparing us to are like region, like occupations, like income, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely correct. And that's why we utilized our comparables within those same demographics.
Yeah.
Strongly supportive in making sure that our staff who continuously have to perform magic to get things to function as awesomely as they do in the city, but strongly supportive in making sure that everyone is compensated for the duties that they carry out. So move it on.
Could I, one other little comment, just
Yes.
because I'm leaving soon? One thing that happened, like in California, I don't know if you all remember, but prosperous cities kind of got into this, like giving everybody big raises. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this, but what I'm saying is there is a cautionary note here to just kind of beware that when there's prosperous times and things are kind of looking good, you know, that what they ended up doing is giving such huge benefits and severance packages that, you know, like bankrupt some cities and stuff. We're not going there, you know, but it is definitely our job to just say, hey, let's really do this right, and let's move it into the zone that it needs to be, rather than doing something kind of radical, and then maybe bankrupting the city or things like that. So,
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
this schedule, like I said, makes things consistent across the board for all departments, which is helpful.
Okay. If there are no other comments this time, Donna, would you please provide a first reading of ordinance number 1946-1019?
Ordinance number 1946-1019, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, ratifying existing employment positions and salary schedule.
And staff recommends that we move this action to the action agenda for the December 3rd, 2019 meeting. Is there concurrence to do so?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. With that, we will close this public hearing and open the public hearing about ad valorem taxes for 2020. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Finance Director Aaron B. Miller has details for us. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. I had a string of them here for you. So this first one that you have before you is the city's 2020 regular and EMS property tax levy. This ordinance will levy the statutory amount of ad valorem taxes, which are property taxes, by taking last year's highest lawful levy as provided by the Mason County Assessor's Office and increasing that by the full 1%. We can increase by 1% or the IPD, whichever is lower. The IPD this year, the implicit price deflator, was about 1.36%. So we are using the full statutory limit of 1%. And then adding on any of the statutory, or any of the allowable increases above and beyond the statutory limit, which includes new construction, state assessed property, and the like. For the regular levy, we would levy $2,123,665. This is an increase of $83,858 over last year's regular levy, or about 4.1112%. One of the reasons behind this larger increase is if you look at the top of that first chart, the top of page 2, our 2019 highest lawful levy was $2,052,080. In 2019, we levied $2,039,742, which means we had a bank of about $12,000, which we are incorporating into the 2020 levy. The ordinance does also, as we talked about at the Municipal Park District, this ordinance does reserve any unutilized levy from add-ons, such as a new construction or state utilities, refunds, or anything resulting in a higher amount than we are levying for future years. Section 2 of this ordinance is for our EMS levy. I believe this is year 4 of 6 for the EMS levy. We are levying the full statutory amount of $324,234.85. That's an increase of about $10,666 or 3.480. And again, we've highlighted this out the same way. So we're showing the 2019 highest lawful, what we actually did levy, and you can see that there's it's a little bit less than 1% because we actually levied more than we could collect, but the assessor treasurer wants the value from what we actually levied. So it's showing a little bit less there, but when you add on the new construction and state assessed property, it goes up to the 3.4. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Donna, is there any public testimony on this item?
There is not.
At this time, I would ask for a first reading of ordinance 1940-1019.
Ordinance number 1940-1019. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, setting the amount of the annual ad valorem taxes in the City of Shelton for calendar year 2020.
Thank you, Donna. At this time, any comments or questions from council members? All right. Seeing none, staff is recommending to move this to the action agenda for the December 3rd, 2019 meeting as well. Is there concurrence to do so?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. At that time, then, we'll close this public hearing and open the public hearing about the final budget for 2020.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Before you is ordinance number 1941-1019, which is an ordinance of the city adopting the budget for the year ending December 31st, 2020. We've had several meetings about this. The council instituted this year a budget committee, and so we've been meeting with them throughout the summer. We also had public hearings on the 17th of September as well as the 15th of October where we discussed the budget and the ad valorem taxes. The total budget that this ordinance would be adopting, you can see that on Exhibits A and Exhibits B on the just after the signature page. The total budget is $30,265,560, and that includes $12,278,370 of general fund. The lower chart below shows our estimated beginning fund balance, our budgeted revenue, as well as the budgeted expenses, and then the estimated ending fund balance for the year and changes. I do just want to add that we are asking the council to approve to move this to the action agenda for 12.3. The ordinance that you will see on 12.3 will be changed just slightly. We are going to go through at our last meeting, public hearing, talked about a couple of changes, or I should say public hearing, at the last committee of the whole meeting, talked about a couple of changes, and so we do need to right-size a little bit with the information that we now have from the Mason County Assessor. The fire contract will go up by about $12,000. That's based on assessed value and the rate, so that's a contracted amount. We are going to increase the capital improvement fund by $90,000. This was the result of having the salt bin building budgeted in the street fund. We're simply going to move that into the capital improvement fund. No change to the street fund other than a shift of expenditure category for that. We've also met with Public Works this week, or last week, and we had budgeted $1,335,400 for the Western Gateway project in 2020. That amount was budgeted in 2019, and as that's a capital project, we don't need to budget that again. The expenditure authority for capital projects continues on. Otherwise, we'd be showing twice that amount budget. And then because of that same change to the Western Gateway project, we are reducing the amount of street money that we're transferring into the capital improvement fund because some of those transportation benefit district dollars were to go to fund this, but because it was budgeted in 2019, all of the revenues were also budgeted in 2019. So all that's taken place. So those are going to be the changes that would be coming forward when we go through this, hopefully, on the 12-3 action agenda. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Donna, do we have any public testimony on this item?
We do not.
And before we get into comments and questions, can we get a first reading, please, Donna?
Ordinance number 1941-1019, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, adopting the budget for the year ending December 31st, 2020.
At this time, questions and comments. So, Councilmember McDowell?
Just had a question about the library endowment fund. There isn't anything on that line. Is that because we've
budgeted no expense for 2020.
the
for
library is
endowment.
good to go? All right, very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Quins?
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to commend our city manager and our financial staff for a job well done. I know that I growl at Aaron all the time, and I growl at the manager all the time, and maybe those growlings kind of get this thing all done real nice and neat. I don't know, but I'm not growling because I'm real happy everything got done really well and stuff. So I think you guys did a great job on this. I'm excited about the future of Shelton. Financially, we are in a better position than we've been in a very, very long time, and we're looking for a prosperous future.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council?
No.
Then may I have concurrence from the council to move this item to the action agenda for December 3rd, 2019?
Okay.
With that, I will close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting. Thank you, Aaron. And now back to Aaron to give us some information about the changes to the DNO model.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. Before you is ordinance number 1945-1019. This is changes to what's called the B&O model ordinance to create a certain degree of uniformity for businesses operating within the state. All cities and towns that levy B&O tax must adopt the provisions of the statewide B&O tax ordinance. In 2003, the legislature passed a bill that required the Association of Washington Cities to convene a committee to develop a model ordinance to be adopted by cities imposing the tax. The legislature at the time was concerned about the lack of uniformity in the city's B&O tax ordinance and about allegations that some businesses' income were subject to multiple taxations. The model ordinance cannot be updated more often than once every 4 years. In 2017, House Bill 2005 required that B&O tax cities form a task force to review service apportionment, which was followed in 2019 by the House adopting those recommendations for the model ordinance, and that's what this does. The model ordinance, the changes that we have in here, which are in strikeout view, are simply, they made it very easy for us. They put the model ordinance, they put the changes online, and we just were able to copy that along. So what this does is, word for word, just updates the model ordinance as is required for us to allow it to continue to have B&O taxes.
Okay. And is there any public comment on this item?
There is not.
And Donna, may I please have a first reading of ordinance number 1945-1019?
Ordinance number 1945-1019, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to business and occupation tax, amending Shelton Municipal Code, Chapter 3.52, entitled Business and Occupational Tax, making changes to the procedures for the assessment and collection of business and occupation taxes.
Thank you, Donna. And council, any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, staff recommends the council concur to move this item to the action agenda for December 3rd. Is there concurrence to do so?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, then we'll be on to our last item from Aaron for this evening, an ordinance about administrative tax provisions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This goes hand in hand with the ordinance that you just heard. This is another change to, that the city must adopt as a B&O city. What this change does, it will update our Shelton Municipal Code 3.1. And what it does is it changes the annual tax filing deadline. The tax filing deadline now includes language linking the change to April 15th for the annual tax return filing by referencing the RCW 8232050, and that will become effective January 1st, 2021. So this is, again, updating us to be compliant and allowing time for everyone to understand that the tax filing changes for next year, the 2021.
As we have no public comment on this either, Donna, may I please have a first reading of ordinance number 1947-119?
Yes. Ordinance number 1947-1119, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to the administrative provisions for business and occupation tax, amending Shelton Municipal Code, Chapter 3.10, entitled Administrative Provisions for City of Shelton Taxes, making changes to the administrative provisions for the assessment and collection of business and occupation taxes.
Thank you, Donna. Any comments or questions from the council?
Just a quick question on the details related to B&O. B&O filing is annually across the board, or how do business, what does that mean exactly in terms of?
I believe the current filing deadline is the end of January, and what they're doing is they're extending that out for annual filers to April. There also, businesses can file on a quarterly basis as well. And this does not change that, I don't believe. This is only for annual tax filers.
Do we know if this is going to create any sort of an impact in our reporting being with this adjustment in the city's, at normal financial reporting cycles? Or does this just kind of
it's
4 months out or something like that?
Exactly. It still is happening in the same year. It's just later in that year. So I guess the only change that you would see is potentially less revenue being generated in the first quarter of the year and more revenue being generated in the second quarter of the year, but that would wash because it's just changing when that tax would likely come in.
Good to know.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, with that, staff recommends the council concur to move this item to the action agenda for the December 3rd, 2019 meeting. Concur to do so?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. Dawn, has anyone signed up for the public comment on the action agenda items?
No, they have not.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move on to our first action agenda item, the William D. Reed Library Repairs Project. Community Development Director Mark Ziegler, would you provide us some details, please?
Deputy Mayor, council members, pleased to bring you tonight the final acceptance for William G. Reed Library repairs. As you know, we separated this project into 2 separate phases due to bidding issues, I guess. One was with NC Structures LLC for the repairs of the soffit, fascia, break boards, and replacement of the roof, the metal roof. And the other contract was under painting who performed siding repairs and painted the facility. The project has been completed on time within allotted funds, and we're asking the council tonight for approval to final acceptance.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move to accept the William G. Reed library repairs project and authorize the mayor and council to sign the final acceptance forms.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Great job. Wasn't this a project where we didn't have the money to do the metal roof, and then we went back out to bid and got a better deal and got it done?
Not in its entirety. We
No.
went out to bid for the total project, didn't have enough money to make all of the repairs we hoped to make and have the metal roof installed. So we split the project up. We had to add an alternate within the bid, so we could kind of pick and choose what met our budget. So we went forward with the metal roof for the first contract, went back out to bid for the painting and had a more favorable bidding for that portion of the project, and at least got that done. So we've got the exterior envelope sealed up, repaired, and in a great functioning condition for our fine Northwest winters. And we'll chip away at some of the other projects like landscaping and work with the library for interior renovations in the future.
Looks great.
Thanks.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the William G. Reed Library Repairs Project and authorize me and the council to sign the final acceptance forms. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on. Our second item, back to Mark for the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery.
So much. Once again, it's time for new art in the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery. The Shelton Arts Commission called for artists with a deadline of November 1st. 3 artists submitted their work for consideration for this 3-month installation that would start on December 3rd and run through February 28th. Evie Redmond, George Stenberg, and Tim Ransom, are 3 artists that are being recommended by the Arts Commission tonight.
And do we have a motion?
I move to approve the Shelton Arts Commission's recommendations for placement in the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and we will then move on to item number 3, 2019 chip seal and 2019 residential paving final acceptance. Craig, would you like to provide us some briefing on this?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and council members. As we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, present to you tonight final acceptance of 2 different projects that were completed this last fall. The residential paving and chip seal maintenance of roadways up in North Mountain View, residential paving in the West Mountain View area, and those projects were just slightly over budget, 4% over budget for this year, with those remaining funds coming out of transportation funds within the city. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have a motion on this item?
I move to accept 2019 residential paving and 2019 chip seal projects by authorizing the mayor and council to sign the final acceptance forms.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions for Public Works Director Gregory?
I'd like to just add that I think the streets look great, what we've done so far, and you've done a fantastic job.
I agree.
Councilmember Kranz?
I would agree with that also, and please relay this back to the hardworking city employees that are really doing all the hard work out there. I mean, make sure they get these compliments, okay?
All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, we have a motion and a second to accept the 2019 residential paving and 2019 chip seal projects, authorizing me and the council to sign the final acceptance forms. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Craig, now if you will provide us some information about the contract amendment and a work order amendment.
Thank you again. Bringing back before you a project for the Civic Center parking lot where we didn't quite have enough funding to move forward with the original concept. We have taken another look at that project as a whole and revamped some of the aspects of it, but we are needing to go back out for some additional design with those changes to save some funding, and we asked to make that amendment to the Transpo Group engineering contract for design.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve the contract
I was looking
extension
for
and
it.
additional design expenditures by authorizing the mayor to sign the on-call engineering contract amendment number 1 and work order number TG001-19, amendment number 1 with the Transpo Group.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those, any comments or questions for Craig on this item? Councilmember Kranz?
I don't know why I'm so talkative, and usually I don't do this, but isn't this where we kind of were doing something, and then we kind of said, hey, look, this is a lot of money, and maybe we can do this, and kind of put the stormwater thing over here on this lot, and let's go back and relook at this, which a lot of cities could just say, hey, let's just do it, we'll ask the council for more money, and let's just, but this is a fine example of the city manager, and I believe Public Works and your people in saying, let's see if we can't do a better job with the money we have and whatnot. I mean, is that how I?
Yes, we look to redesign that facility and be as efficient as we can with the public's funds, but we also wanted to make sure that we were implementing a component and several components of the downtown visioning plan that many members of our community work so hard to develop, implement, and that this council adopted. And that was one of the major considerations when we were looking at it, but to do it as efficiently as we can with the funds allotted.
And just to follow up on that, theoretically, you guys could have all just said, well, we didn't do it, we could have, let's just go back to the council, get more money, or, I mean, you could have taken an easier workload route on this one.
I would have had Craig ask for more money, but yeah.
So, anyway, but that is government working for the people, doing, and when these things come around, this is what, to me, excites the citizens to know that their dollars are spent to create this community, and that you look beyond just getting by, you look at ways you can actually save money and actually do a better project while you're doing it. That's an exciting thing to be part of a team that does that.
All right. On that happy note, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We will move on then to the last item from Director Gregory, a contract for the State Route 3 Park and Ride.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor and council members. Bring forward to you tonight an RFP that went out several weeks ago for some investigational work at the Pear Orchard Park and Ride. We have selected Aspect Consulting, sorry about that, to do this work for us and present to you tonight the contract for Aspect to do that investigational work.
All right. I would entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve the contract for the State Route 3 Park and Ride investigation and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Aspect Consulting.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions for Director Gregory?
Just a quick question. Do we know how quickly they'll be able to proceed?
Very soon after we give them the notice to proceed, they should be out there within a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right. In that case, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That brings us to action item number 6, City Manager Jeff Knighton. Oh, I'm sorry. We struck that from the agenda. We'll move on then to the next item, which is public defense contract, also presented by City Manager Jeff Knighton.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. To the right one here, there we go. So what we have before you tonight is the second reading of the amendment to the public defense contract. A couple of things I wanted to note here. First, that a component or a provision in the contract considers a reopener of the contract if and when caseloads go above those that were anticipated for the contract when it was initially signed, and that this new contract sets compensation for our public defense attorney at a level that is comparable with other cities and yet is still extremely efficient for managing the caseloads that we are experiencing this year in Shelton and anticipate to experience next year. Be happy to answer any questions.
And do we have a motion on this?
I move to approve the contract amendment with Tashner and Associates as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions for Jeff? Councilmember Kranz.
I've had many conversations with the city manager about this over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and I feel comfortable after our conversations that this is the right thing to do.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. With that, we are at our second general public comment period. Donna, do we have anyone additionally signed up?
We do not, Deputy Mayor.
In that case, I will turn it back to you, Jeff, for our administration report.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, members of council. A couple of things I wanted to mention. As you know, we have received building permits for the YMCA project, and we are diligently reviewing those and focused on those in order for the YMCA and our community to meet the timelines and get the YMCA open. I'm sure that will be a very welcome addition to our community once all the work is completed. But there's a lot to do between now and then, but the YMCA and their subcontractors are up to the task, and so are we. We're really looking forward to partnering with them to get that open. Second item I wanted to mention was the holiday celebration at Post Office Park coming up on December 6th. I was given the honor this year of lighting the Christmas tree, so can't wait for that to happen.
Don't stand in a bucket of water.
Yeah, well, we'll see if any of you provide a bucket of water for me to stand in.
You know, I've been here for 66 years, and I've never been.
They've never asked you?
No.
Never asked me.
I will be happy to give you that honor next year. And then also the parade on the 7th. That, I'm looking forward to attending with my family, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. And that's all I have.
All right. Are there any new items for discussion from the council? Councilmember Cruns?
I don't know why I'm talking on all these things, but let me just, this is for the people out there in the TV land and whatnot, and something has kind of come across my thought pattern here this week. It was a conversation I had about something that was voted on by the citizens of Washington, and I believe that's like a $30 car tab thing, you know, and so that, like it or not, there was an initiative or something where ran, and that by the vote of the people won. And then from that became a bunch of lawsuits to contest that. Well, an organization that we are part of, Association of Washington Cities, I think actually signed on to that lawsuit to protest that. Am I correct? If I'm wrong, then please.
I have heard were considering it. I'm not sure if that actually occurred or not.
So here's one thing. One thing, the city, Association of Washington Cities can do that, but I'm against circumventing a vote of the people by doing that, and we're part of AWC. I respect AWC. I love AWC. I give AWC my due money. We are greatly honored to be part of their club, but everything they do doesn't necessarily mean everything that we agree as a city or as individuals. My personal feelings is it won by vote of people. Get over it, okay? And that's me personally speaking, not for the city or not for AWC, but if anybody's out there that sees organizations that do things that you don't agree with, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't agree with it. So I took this little opportunity to grandstand just a little bit about that one issue, and maybe AWC won't do that, or they'll put out a request to all the cities to say, do we think we should do that? That would be my recommendation to them.
All right. Anything else from the council this evening?
Is that it?
Seeing none, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019 at 6 o'clock p.m. We are adjourned.